Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, to another episode of She in Islam. And Ramadan Kareem, I hope that you're having a good Ramadan, inshallah, that your fast isn't too difficult, and that you get more from your fasting in Ramadan than just being hungry and being thirsty, possibly getting grumpy a little bit, but that you're also getting something to nourish your soul, to nourish your spirit, to grow, to, inshallah, acquire a few new Islamic habits that you haven't done before. So something that would revive you, inshallah. And we are continuing today with our episode from yesterday with dear sister Karen Atkins. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you, Karen?
Fine, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Karen has been in Kuwait for many, many years, and she's an educator here in Kuwait. She has her master's degree in foreign languages with a concentration on TESOL, which is teaching English to speaker of other languages. And you've made good use of that, I think, in Kuwait as well. You've been in Kuwait for quite a long time, Karen. How many years have you been in Kuwait?
I've been in Kuwait for 35 years.
MashaAllah, yes. That's a big part of your life, mashallah.
Yes, it is.
Right, and you're a Western woman. You're from the US, and I think you said you're from Ohio.
Right.
So what would bring a woman from the West? You know, we have our freedoms, we have our lifestyle, basically, do what you like. We have our so-called freedoms. What would bring you, a free Western woman, to a religion like Islam that unfortunately many people view as oppressive, especially of women? What would be the attraction?
I never thought of Islam as being oppressive in the first place. I looked at the Quran as a miracle, as a book that was a miracle in which there was no doubt. Because every time I read it, it talked about science, it talked about everything, and there was no changes in it.
It was logic. It's logic.
It's logical, and it's talking to those who think and those who ponder. It was just, it really is a beautiful book, and it talks about things in a beautiful way.
Yes.
And
it actually requests us to think, right? It requests us think, see the signs,
Right.
And like you said, ponder about them. So it's not just asking us to have blind faith,
Right.
but actually use your mind. Allah gave you the mind, use it, and think about science as much as we can understand of it. Right. So how long ago did you become Muslim?
I became Muslim around 20 to nearly 30 years ago.
MashaAllah, yeah. I still remember those days. I mean, we go back a long way,
Yes,
alhamdulillah.
we do, yes.
Yes, we're dear sisters for a long, long time, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
And I still remember your beginning. You had a lot of questions prior to Islam, but you were always well studied, mashallah. I mean, you were always well prepared with your questions, and you used to ask very specific questions.
Yes, I did, because I knew about Christianity. I was raised Christian, so I knew about the Bible and what it said. So, and in fact, when I was older, I became part of a non-denominational Christian group that believed that the Bible was God's word. But over time, I realized that it had been adulterated and changed, and there really was no specific, copy that was straight, like from that time.
Right.
And so it had been copied and changed in different ways.
Did you realize that before your conversion or more after your conversion to Islam?
Well, before my conversion, of course, because to believe in another religion was something very not very easy for me.
It's a big step.
Because I had been told that the devil will try to take you away from your belief and everything like that.
So there's a certain fear in you about.
Well, of course, even in Islam, if someone tries to take you away from faith, then
you're cautious.
You're very cautious about that. You should be very cautious about that, because of course there is
understandable.
Hereafter, And I thank my parents for raising me the way they did, and I saw nothing seriously wrong with Christianity, so that made me study more and more about Islam before I became Muslim.
Right. So you actually studied Islam. I mean, you tried to understand it before you converted, so that you would convert with conviction.
Right.
And not just because you've moved to the Middle East,
or because I married my husband.
Or yes, as many people believe,
like
unfortunately.
Right.
You know, many people believe that us converts, we convert because we're either married into the culture or, you know, not really being convinced.
Right.
Because they all, you know, unfortunately, there's this misconception that, like I just said, you know, people think that you were in the free West. Why on earth would you do something like that? Unless there's some kind of family pressures or...
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of myths in the West, and they're propagated by the media and things like this. So it's hard to overcome, you know, and talk about Islam now to people in the West, because they're so, the waters have been muddied so much by these media people and everything like that.
They're saturated by misconceptions.
It's very sad
yes.
for me, actually.
Yes, yes, that's true, yeah.
But hopefully we can open up this subject to other people.
Yes, that is always, I think the way we can open it up always is by being good examples, number one. You know, never a bad example, hopefully always good example. To be educated when we speak, you know, and to be cultured when we speak to non-Muslims, and to always be open for answering questions, so that people can at least, if not accept Islam, but at least have an open mind towards it and get the correct picture from Muslims themselves. Because that's, of course, if you try to get the correct picture of anything, of any thought or any philosophy, you try to go to the source, which is Islam. You don't try to take your source from non-Muslims about Islam. All right, so today,
and that's what's so beautiful about the Quran, and how they tell the stories of the prophets and of Mary and the birth of Jesus.
The consistency.
Because it's so human.
Yes.
A very humanistic story, and we go back and we see, if we read Surah Miriam or chapter Miriam, or the chapter Al-Imran in the Quran, we will see exactly how beautiful it is portrayed and set out.
MashaAllah.
And the way that Allah plans for everything.
SubhanAllah. And that's going to lead us to the topic of today, which is continuation of yesterday's episode on this miraculous story of Miriam, or Mary. But inshallah, we'll go for a break first, and then we will give a little summary of what we talked about yesterday. So please, viewers, stay with us, inshallah, just a few minutes, and we'll be back.
One song can change a moment. One idea can change a world. One step can start a journey. But a prayer can change even the impossible.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to your viewers. With us again today is my dear sister Karen, and we were continuing, inshallah, our topic from yesterday about a very honored woman in Islam, and that woman is Miriam. And what I really enjoy about today's topic is that we do honor women in Islam. Yes. You know, there are several women that are mentioned by name as being superior and wonderful women. They're mothers of the believers, and they are examples to us. And not just women being examples to women, women being examples to all mankind. And I really like that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put women in that status and in that position. Miriam being one, Asiya, the wife of the Pharaoh, who adopted and took in, fostered Musa alayhi salam, being another, Aisha radiallahu anha, being the biggest scholar, being the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's so many women in Islamic history, or in history, that God has honored. And one of the ones that has been honored by naming a chapter in the Quran after is Miriam, the mother of Isa alayhi salam. So let's summarize just a little bit about yesterday. If you can go back to explaining to me how she was honored in the Quran, and who is Miriam?
Mary is the daughter of Imran and Hannah, which are from the priestly prophethood family in Bani Israel, which is the Israelites. And she is miraculous in that she gave birth to Jesus as a virgin.
Right.
Okay.
So she's the mother of a very important prophet in not just Islam, in Christianity as well. Yes.
Okay. And this came after the birth of Zachariah's son, Yahya. Okay. So
who's Yahya? This is
Yahya
like an Arabic name.
Yahya is the name that was given by God to Zachariah's son when he announced to him that he would have a son, that he would have a prophet.
And which was very miraculous in itself, right?
Yes. Zachariah, of course, being the uncle of Mary, they belonged to the same family, and they were where the prophets of Israel came from. So that when he asked, even though he was of old age and his wife was barren, he came to ask for a son to carry on the prophethood. So when when he prayed, he was announced to him that he would have a son named Yahya, or John the Baptist. Okay, and so he was like incredulous and saying, "How can I have this child when I'm old? My wife is barren." And it says at least 2 different places or 3 different places that his wife was barren. So his head was glistening with his age, and his bones were infirm. Yet he was to have a son, and he was requested by the angel as not a request; it was a command to be silent for 3 days, not to speak to anyone.
So really fasting from speech.
Fasting from speech. And you can imagine how difficult that is. Just fasting from food for us is kind of difficult.
Fasting from speech is very difficult because you need speech for everyday communication.
Right. So he fasted from speech and everything, and his wife did deliver a boy, which is the prophet John the Baptist. So, but before his birth, because I think there's like only 6 months between the birth of, or so we're told in some hadiths, that he preceded Jesus by.
So it's just slightly older than Jesus.
Slightly older than Jesus. Okay, so here we have the birth of a man, a prophet, without any fertile parents.
Right.
Okay, so it was another creation. All right. Now, what happened next in the Quran is that Mary is there, and she's getting the Annunciation of Jesus from the angels. The angels come to her. One time they say it's Gabriel comes to her. In another time, in another part of the Quran, it says angels. So more than one angel is speaking to her and telling her this.
And she's not married.
She
we have the same belief that she's a virgin.
Yes.
Just like in Christianity.
She says, how can I have a child? No man has touched me. No one has come near to me, and I'm not unchaste. So that means that she
I'm
is
a good
chaste.
woman.
And it
decent,
says at least 3 times that she is chaste in the Quran. Okay, so, and that she guarded her chastity. So she can't get this idea that she will have a son. But again, it said, he is a word, God just has to say be, and it is.
Kun fayakun.
Okay, yes. So here it is, this is a miraculous birth, and it is, she is, very shocked to hear this, of course, at first.
Of course, and I'm sure she'd be worried about her reputation as well.
Definitely.
Because who's going to believe her? I mean, she knows about her own chastity.
Yes.
And the people close to her family understand.
Not only this, she is from this prestigious family. This family that
of
there are
prophets and priests, religious clergy.
Right.
And so she's, her word.
And she's raised in the temple, so she knows all about the modesty and chastity. And of course it says, the angel tells her, Allah had chosen her and purified her and chosen her above the women of all nations. And this is in verse 42 of Al-Imran.
MashaAllah. So she's been chosen from women above. I mean, imagine that honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be chosen among all nations.
Chosen from all nations. That's how her status is in Islam.
Allahu Akbar.
Okay, and this of course goes back to her mother, dedicating what was in her womb
to
the service
temple
of God.
Inshallah, we'll be back in just a minute, inshallah, and see how that status elevated her. And I would be really interested to know what the reaction of the people was around her, trying to justify this idea of a virgin pregnancy and virgin birth. So we will just be back in 1 minute. Please stay with us, dear viewers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. Welcome back. We're on a very fascinating subject, a subject in history, not just in Islam, but something that we have in common with Christianity to a certain degree. And that is the virgin birth of Jesus alayhi salam with his mother Mary, and in Arabic Miriam. And with us is my dear friend, our guest Karen, and we've been talking about Miriam and how honored she was in the Quran. You said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose her from the women among all, best of all nations, to be having a child, and a child still while she's chaste and she is in the service of God, and she did not have relations, and she didn't have a husband.
Right.
So you said the angels came to her.
Yeah, the angels came to her and gave her the announcement of the birth of Jesus alayhi salam, and she's still she can't grasp that at first.
Incredulous, probably.
Yes,
it's like, how
can she do this when she's from such a good family and everything like this? What will the people think? But that's part of the what you call it, the why she was chosen by God, because she was devout to Allah. She believed
she was so pure and had a good
pure
reputation.
Yes, and she was being brought up in the temple. So she had the fortitude that most other people didn't. Now, let alone women.
Right.
So when she took herself then off to another wing of the temple to seclude herself, because she didn't want anyone to see that she was pregnant.
Of course, because that would raise questions,
right,
it would raise doubts. And of course, I mean, in any society, I mean, yes, you know, you're going to think a person is religious and devout, but come on, you know, I mean, who's going to believe in that kind of a miracle?
Yes.
It would be natural for people.
How could anyone explain? And this is one of the miracles of God that we will find out later in the chapter of Miriam. For example, she went out when her time was coming close. She went out to a remote area, and she went to give birth, and she was alone by herself, and she was near a date palm tree, and the pain is coming like a normal birth, and we know this because she is distraught. She is saying, would that I had never been born. Okay, she says this, and this is the humanity. See the humanity. Every woman knows the pain of childbirth. I mean, every mother who knows the pain of childbirth and the hardship it can cause. And so,
try doing that alone.
She was.
I mean, nowadays we're all being spoiled, and there's medical attention, and then there's the family around us, and we're getting spoiled before and after. And poor Miriam, she was on her own.
Right, and she was holding on to the trunk of a date palm tree, and when she was undergoing these pains and this anxiety,
pains
and what is she going to, the fear, what is she going to do if she delivers? If she dies now, it's okay, she won't have to explain to anybody, right?
Yes.
But afterwards, if she
actually has a child, how is she going to go back into society and explain this little bundle of joy, right, to society who's going to be very understandably disbelieving.
Right.
I mean, we don't want to blame the people around her either, because that would be a natural reaction of people around her.
It's so humane and natural, her story. From the date palm, it's a voice, must be an angel, telling her to shake the palm tree and to eat of ripe dates. Okay, so then we know the time of Jesus's birth, alayhi salam. So many people
place at end of summer or something like that, right?
So many people contest this. What is the date of his birth? But here we know that it must be around that time. And it also, the voice also says to drink of a stream, a rivulet that is going past beneath the tree, and cool your eyes. So she's obviously crying, and so this stream nearby, she cools her eyes and she gives birth. And the angel tells her not to speak again, not to speak to anyone, okay?
That would be a hard one, not to try to explain yourself.
But at the same time, we're told 3 different places, at least, or 4 places in the Quran, that Jesus, alayhi salam, he spoke from the cradle. He spoke from infancy. He spoke, and when she went back with her babe in her arms, Jesus, she pointed to him, and he spoke.
He was newborn.
He spoke to the people as a newborn. Okay, he told He told this story,
exonerating his mother,
that he was a servant of God, and that's the first thing he says. He says, "I'm the servant of God," which means that he is not the son of God. He is the servant of God. Okay, which means that he's a prophet and he's a messenger. Yes. He goes on to say, and everything. He says all this. So of course, a child this size is speaking. This is miraculous. So what does Mary have to do? She has to do nothing. It's already explained.
For her to be silent, yes.
Can you imagine a better way to explain to the community that this is a miraculous birth than having the child itself speak? Mary didn't have to utter a single word.
Because if she did, probably people would even condemn her even more so. Yeah, you know, no matter what explanation she would give, wouldn't be.
Yes, it wouldn't be miraculous if she told them.
It wouldn't make sense to anybody.
The baby Jesus spoke, and gave his mother the best mercy of all.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. So how did Mary deal at all? Was there any doubts in the minds of the people?
Not after Jesus spoke.
Not after Jesus spoke, subhanallah. So he exonerated his mother from any doubt that was taken care of, subhanallah. And of course, this was all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll be back in a minute, inshallah. Dear viewers, stay with us. Back in a second.
M is for the million things she gave me. O means only she's growing old. T is for the tears she shed to save me. H is for her heart of purest gold. E is for her eyes with love light shining. R means right, and right she'll always be. Put them all together, they spell mother, a word that means the world to me.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. Welcome back to our very interesting topic of today, that is honoring one of the best women in Islam, in Islamic history, Miriam, the mother of Isa alayhi salam. So we discussed Mary's virgin birth and how it brought out her humanity, that she was just like any other woman, having labor pains and holding onto that tree, needing to cool her eyes and her face, needing sustenance, which were the dates, which due to the date palms, we can approximately place the birth of Jesus, I think at the end of summer, because that's the season for the dates ripening. I think I said something about September, October, even possibly in that time range, right? And so when she was having to face the rest of society with having a newborn baby without being married and without having any kind of relations, she didn't need to speak, alhamdulillah, but her baby, her newborn baby spoke. Jesus spoke. And he exonerated his mother from any doubt from the public by speaking and saying that he was a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he was a servant of God, which was such a miracle. And this way his mother's honor stayed intact.
Right.
So there's a whole chapter, called Miriam. What is the history of the revelation of this chapter? Where in the Islamic history, in the revelation of the Quran, did it fall?
Okay, this is a surah that was revealed in Mecca. So it's an earlier surah or chapter of the Quran. And verses 1 through 40 deal with Zachariah and Mary. The rest are different prophets. But it's interesting to note that this is revealed before the immigration of Muslims who were being persecuted by the Quraysh tribe, okay? And they were being severely affected, so they went to Abyssinia, which the Negus is Christian, and so the land was Christian.
And it's Abyssinia, I think nowadays is Ethiopia, right? It's in that in the region of Ethiopia, of Africa, of the Horn of Africa.
Right.
So that was quite a migration.
Yes, it was a migration, and but the Arabs, the Quraysh, weren't satisfied to leave them alone. They went after them with gifts and everything for the Negus and his entourage to bribe them in order to let them give them the Muslims back to them,
But they actually
so that they could persecute them some more.
But subhanAllah, they came with that revelation of Mary and the story of Jesus, which kind of brought their hearts probably close to their guests and hosts, the Christian hosts, mashallah. But we've come to the end of our episodes. There's so much more to talk about, mashallah. It's always fascinating. Every story in the Quran has so much tafsir, mashallah. But I appreciate you being here with us. And I hope, dear viewers, you get some new lessons from this wonderful story of Miriam, the mother of Jesus, alayhi salam. And inshallah, we will definitely be back with more episodes and more interesting topics. Enjoy your iftar tonight. And don't forget your tarawih, inshallah. Do some extra good deeds, do some extra prayers, inshallah. Build your soul and not just have hunger and thirst. We will see you in another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.